Introducing the remarkable archetype, the dangerous gentleman. With a demeanor that commands respect and a hint of potency, he embodies strength tempered by virtue. Though his capabilities could veer towards danger, he channels his power for noble causes, serving others and safeguarding those in need. Rooted in a profound love for both God and humanity, he navigates life with discipline and purpose. In his presence, one witnesses the harmonious blend of power and benevolence, a testament to the true essence of masculinity. Step into the world of the dangerous gentleman, where strength is wielded for righteousness, and discover a captivating embodiment of honor and valor. Welcome to Storytime with the Dangerous Gentleman. Yes, I am the Dangerous Gentleman, and today we're going to talk about my story of the year that changed my life. The reason I was thinking about this today is I saw a post on Instagram by a guy named Matt Graham. On Instagram, his handle is not Matt Graham, and if you follow him, he puts out some really good content. Anyway, he was talking about the passage of time and how in a year you have two options. Regardless of which option you choose, a year is going to go by. So in a year, if you choose to just continue on the same path that you're going, you're going to be the same person. Either way, it's going to be a year down the road. But if you choose to take the next year and radically change your life, change the way you eat, change the way you work out, change the way you do business, change the way that you do relationships, in a year, you are going to be a completely different person. Regardless of which choice you make, you're going to be a year down the road. So why not make the choice to radically change your life today and in a year see what could happen? And while I didn't make that decision, I didn't just wake up one day and decide, hey, in a year from now, I want to see what I can do, see what I can become. I did wake up one morning and decided I wanted to change my life. And I committed a period of time. I committed my effort, my energy, and my focus to becoming a better version of myself. And a year later, I was a radically different version of myself. Now, to start with, my life wasn't terrible. I mean, it was kind of okay. I was not in very good health. I was overweight and I was out of shape. Yeah, I went to the gym, but I wasn't really getting anywhere. Business was kind of blah. My relationships were kind of blah. Like I didn't have a whole lot going for me. I was just kind of living my life and existing. And there were two things that happened over the course of that year, the next year, that are the things that were the catalyst to me becoming a different person. The first is that I decided I didn't want to be overweight anymore. I finally wanted to get my nutrition under control. I've been doing these little this, that, and the other thing. Like I've talked about my weight loss journey a bit. Like I was trying to do fasting or carnivore or keto or whatever. And I kind of was just stuck. And so I contacted someone and I said, hey, I need some help with my nutrition. And she was a coach at the gym, and she said, sure, let me help you. And so I followed a very specific plan. And over the course of my time working with her, I lost 50 pounds, and I was a radically different person physically. She also gave me extra workouts to do. She gave me recommendations of stuff that I could listen to, stuff I could watch, and she was keeping track of what I was doing in the gym. And by the time I was done with that, like I couldn't believe myself. I couldn't believe the change, not just the losing weight, but the putting on of muscle and the ability for me to do things in the gym that I never thought possible. My cardio, my endurance, my strength, it was all better. And I owe that to that decision that I made to wait, that I just decided it was enough. And I stuck to it. And during that same period of time, I started following a program called 75 Hard. Now, a lot of people have heard of 75 Hard, but if you haven't, it's a program that's put out a guy named Andy Frisella. He does a podcast called the Real AF Podcast. He came up with this 75 Hard, and he did it when he was trying to lose weight, when he was trying to get his head in the right space. And so he did it, and then he started sharing it with people, and other people started to do it, and drastic, radical results. were happening across the world. And it still is one of the best, it's the most popular mental transformation because it's not just a diet program, it's a mental fitness, a mental toughness program. And it includes reading books, it includes drinking water, it includes tracking your progress in a whole bunch of different areas. It includes a diet and it includes working out. So there's some fitness components to it, but overall, it's a mental toughness challenge because you don't get to cheat. There's no cheating on your diet. If you miss any piece of the program, you have to start back over at day one. And so it's also a great measure of your own self accountability and holding yourself to the standard. So, like, you will get out of the challenge what you put into it. If you decide to just kind of coast, if you decide to kind of just do it half ass, then you're not going to get out of it what it's designed to do. No cheating, no days off. It's not something that's meant to be that you're supposed to be able to do this all the time, forever, for the rest of your life. But it is meant to reset your understanding of what you can accomplish and to reset your brain so that you know that when you start to get off track, you know what to do to get back on track. And so I decided, as I was following this nutrition plan and exercise plan, I decided that since I was already doing a lot of the stuff that's already in 75 Hard, I decided that I would just do 75 Hard too. And it added a couple of things to it. And so, like, during the midst of all that weight loss and getting in shape, I also put my brain through a mental boot camp. And so I started to read books. I hadn't read on any kind of consistent level for a long time. And I grew up reading a ton of books. Like, I read all the time. And right up until about the time I got married, I read a lot. And so part of this 75 Hard is to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. So you can't read a story or anything like that. This has to be like self help, some kind of learning, some kind of book that's going to improve your brain. So I started to read again, and I started to read nutrition books, and I started to read health books, and I started to read a book that had a major impact on me. Probably the biggest impact of any book I've read outside of the Bible, any nonfiction book. And that was the Atomic Habits, which someday I'll talk about the impact that that had. But I started to read books about mindset and about nutrition and about health and about becoming a better version of myself. And if you do the math, over 75 days, reading 10 pages a day, that's 750 pages. So depending on the size of the book, that's 3, 4, 5 books that you'll read over the course of that time. But the thing that it did is that it got me reading again. And to this day, that was like 4 years ago that I started that. To this day, I don't think I've missed a day that I haven't read. And about 95% of the time, I'm reading those at least 10 pages. So it got me back into the love of reading. And I started to learn things and I started to grow. And I started to realize how much I was actually capable of. Because of all the requirements of that challenge and because of everything that I was doing for my health and for my fitness, I started to realize that I had to really keep track of my time. Because if I let things get away from me, I wasn't going to get everything done that I needed to get done. And so I had to start getting up earlier. And because I was getting up earlier, I started to go to bed earlier. And I was constantly trying to get all the stuff done that needed to get done as early in the day as possible so I could get to bed when I needed to get to bed. And I started to just look around and be like, how was I living before? How did I waste so much time? How did I watch so much television? How did I have time for that? I drastically reduced the amount of TV that I was watching. And I started to focus on relationships. Because I only had a certain amount of time and I wasn't going to spend it watching TV, I started to engage more in relationships. I started to engage more in discussions about things that were truly important, things like politics and current events and theology and the Bible and business and all these things. And without even necessarily focusing on it, my business started to get better. My relationships started to get better. My just overall activity and community involvement started to increase because all of a sudden I had all this extra time. And because I was trying to improve myself all the time, I found myself around different kinds of people. I found myself wanting to spend time around people who were doing the same things as me, people who were trying to make a difference, people who wanted to become something better. And I loved it. And I had to, in some ways, leave some people behind because I was starting to outpace them. I was starting to accelerate in my life, and they weren't accelerating with me. So I had to find this next level. And in the process of going from one level to the next, there were some lonely times, but I was committed to seeing what I could do. I was committed to finding out what my upper limits were. And so sometimes I would have to, in order to get all these requirements for the program in, I would have to take walks late at night. I had to take walks or work out when it was raining, when it was cold, when it was 110 degrees outside. It didn't matter. I had to get this because one of the requirements is that you have to do a 45-minute workout outside, regardless of the weather, regardless of what's going on, regardless of what time of day it is. You have to get it done, and it has to be outside. And the other 45-minute workout can be something else, right? So there were some times when I would have to just stop what I was doing in the evening and be like, oh my gosh, I got to go do 45 minutes outside. And those were some of the best pieces of the program. Those were some of the best times because I'm doing this and I'm doing it no matter what. I'm doing it when it's uncomfortable. And pretty soon, after a while of doing that, I started to look for more ways that I could make it uncomfortable. I got addicted to doing hard stuff. That's where a lot of this mindset that I have now came from, was when I started to do that program at the same time as trying to lose all that weight. I started to look for hard things to do. And I was like, well, I did that hard thing the other day. This hard thing isn't going to be so bad. I started to do things like go to the local park and run up and down this crazy steep hill in the middle of the day when it was 100 degrees outside. And not only did I start to do that every once in a while, I started to look for opportunities to do that. And I started to call people and be like, hey guys, I'm going to go do this thing. Anyone want to come with me? And people would just look at me like I was crazy. And every once in a while, someone would come with me and they'd be like, dude, I don't know what's gotten into you, but you're nuts. And I started to embrace that. I started to relish that side of myself that was just hardcore, that was extreme, that looked for hard things to do. And because I was looking for hard things to do in that capacity, as far as physically, I started to also not avoid a lot of the other hard things that come along with life, hard conversations, calling people out, making those difficult phone calls, making those difficult decisions. All of a sudden, those things weren't so bad anymore. And so every area of my life started to improve. Every area started to get better. My relationships, my fitness, my health, my business, my mind, my heart, my relationship with God took off like nothing, like no other time in my life. I was closer to Him because on some of those long walks, I would talk to Him. I would turn off my phone, I would turn off my earbuds, and I would just talk to God for 45 minutes. And it was amazing. That's like the year that really changed my life. And to this day, I still, most days, work out twice a day, even if one's a workout and one's a walk, right? I still read 10 pages a day. I still read or still drink a gallon of water every day, regardless. I still try to eat healthy as much as I can. Like 90 plus percent of the time, I'm trying to eat healthy. Every once in a while, I still have a cheat. But when I'm on the program, which right now I'm halfway through the third time doing it. So I did it once during that period of time. I waited a year and then I did it again. And then now I've done it again. And if I told you that I never had to start over, I'd be lying, because there were times when I missed on stupid little things where I'd forget to read. I'd be off by one page, or I would forget to take a progress photo, or I would forget to track something, right? And I'd have to start over. And those sucked, but those were when I learned the biggest lessons. And so at the beginning of this time, that was turned out to be about a year's period of time. I went from someone who was complacent, I was overweight, I was fat, lazy, and I was kind of just skating by. I was doing just enough to where I didn't look like I was a complete and total slob piece of shit. I was kind of in the middle. I wasn't doing anything great, but I wasn't completely flopping either. And so when I'm in that state, no one's really paying attention. But if I were completely a piece of garbage, people would be calling me out. If I were pressing hard ahead, people would be like, they'd be looking at me, they'd be looking close at me, and then they would, you know, discover where I was failing. But if I stayed in this place where I wasn't doing a lot, I was just kind of in the middle, no one's going to pay attention to me. But I knew that there was more. And so I took this time to really change my life. And now people come to me for advice when it comes to discipline, when it comes to how to eat right, when it comes to how to exercise and get in shape. People come to me with these questions. And I have closer relationships than I've ever had before with people who are doing stuff, people who are getting shit done. And I am in that group now. I'm not sitting there in the middle. Yeah, do I have areas that could use improvement? Of course, we all do. But I took a period of time and I gave it everything to see where I could get. And I got further than I possibly could have imagined. And as a result, it reset my brain. And so now my average day, I get so much stuff done that it's kind of crazy. And that's just my average day. There are days when I get even more done. But my steady state is more than a lot of people get done, like when they're going hard. I'm up at just after 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going from that time until I usually go to bed at like 9:30, and I may take 30 minutes or something to watch a little TV before I go to bed. But I'm reading throughout the day. I'm exercising. I'm staying physically active. I'm doing all these things to improve my mind and my heart and my connection with God and with others. And I never thought I'd be able to get all this stuff done. I am a different person. My family is like, I don't know what's going on with you. My family now comes to me and asks me these questions too. And to me, that's a really big testimony, is when your own family comes to you and says, hey, I see you changed these things about yourself. Can you help me? I have a question. I have patients now that more and more and more over the course of the years, they come to me and they ask me questions beyond just my area of expertise, which is chiropractic. I'm in positions of leadership at my church. I'm an elder. In these different groups that I'm in, I'm someone that people look to now. And was it because I started saying things? Was it because I told people that I was an expert or because I knew certain things? No, it was because I changed how I acted. And so when I changed how I acted, people could see that. I became the example for other people to look at. So before I sign off, I would recommend that you look into the program 75 Hard, Andy Frisella, the Real AF podcast, episode 208. Yeah, episode 208. He talks about the whole thing. He lays out the whole thing. It's free. There's no charge for it. Also, check out Not Matt Graham on Instagram. He puts out some really cool content. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this. Regardless of what happens, regardless of what decision you make, a year from now, it's going to be a year from now. So why not make this next year the time that you finally put in the effort to become something better? Because a year's going to go by. You're either going to be who you are now or you're going to be who you could be or closer to who you could be. So make that choice. Make that call. That's my encouragement for today.
So if you like this content, please give it a rating, a review, and share it with your friends. Also, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me and what I'm all about and what I can maybe do for you, check out my website at thedangerousgentleman.org. That's thedangerousgentleman.org. Thank you for listening.